Hey everyone, welcome to this episode. This is the podcast conversations that I like to have with my friends who like to hear God and live a life of listening. So, this is the Receive Experience podcast. And in this episode, this conversation I'm having with Tim Jones. He is actually the founder of a organization called Longer Tables. And he recently did an event where they prepared a mile-long lunch in Colorado. And they had, I think, as many seats as there are feet in a mile, which is what, 5,300 something seats. How many feet in a mile? 5,280 feet. So there's over 5,000 people at this event, which is pretty awesome. And Tim and I, we discussed different aspects of listening to God. One of the things that I loved was his own story of going through really hard times, because sometimes we see the successes, right? And you'll see the little moments of success in Tim's life, but what we don't also realize is that he had moments of panic attacks and really hard times. So that's not till the end. So listen to the whole episode just because of what this will help you do. I think stories help us to re-engage in new ways, help us to understand how the Lord is working in people's lives. And Tim's was refreshing in the sense that some of his life experiences and just following through on what he was passionate about and some of the things that he thought were him, thought that were aligned to his identity, thought were part of his great story in becoming like a Steven Spielberg movie producer that wasn't in the plan. Maybe that's like you. Maybe there's times and things that, is God in this? Is God not in this? I thought I was supposed to be somewhere and I'm not. And so all these little stories that Tim and I talk through, they can just give you that extra boost, that extra assurance. So I'm just going to let you listen in on this conversation that I have with Tim Jones. And here we go. I'd love to start just like, what's been happening for you this week? What's been going on lately?
Cool. Well, it really started with a long walk in the rain and catching up with a brother of mine in LA who has really leaned into the identity work and introduced me to Jamie Winship.
Your living brother or like brother in the church?
Good thought. I would be honored if we were blood brothers. We have walked together through a lot of heartache and joys and career stuff for years. And he kept telling me about this Jamie Winship guy. And I'm like, who is this? And I finally, after all these links and podcasts and YouTube, I finally found myself on my couch, and weeping as I listened to, a podcast. So we've been in this journey together of leaning in and listening and receiving our identity and the work around that. He shared a phenomenal story with me that includes a megastar in Hollywood, which I will not name his name, but of just listening and saying, "Hey, I am always willing to talk to you, and I am especially willing to talk to you when the winds of adversity and wildfire, which they live in Simi Valley, so they experience these massive wildfires this year and a lot of adversity, and so." The story that he told me about connecting with his megastar is absolutely mind-blowing. It's the thing of miracles. And to simply keep walking into that and believing in it, Jamie talks about leveling up, right? This like, Lord, what do you want me to receive? And am I ready to go to that next level? So that was super inspiring. And one of the things that we talked about is God does not waste any opportunity. So when God is speaking to me, in doing this liberation work, this freeing work into my true identity and laying down the pain, the trauma, the walls, the barriers of false selves and all of these things. My work is your work, Tyson and Brandon, my buddy in LA. We talked about how it benefits everybody when we start walking into the truth. And it's beautiful. I'm in a newish romantic dating relationship with somebody. I was sharing this with Brandon, and we're hitting some really deep challenges. We both love the Lord, but I realized in the last week that the fears that are coming up in her is an invitation and an opportunity for me to look at my fears and my work of liberation. And I'm getting a little emotional, but like I sense Jesus's presence in this relationship as an act of complete generosity and delight, that as we try to connect with each other, human to human, that God is inviting us into a collective healing work, not just between me and her, but between us and him together. It's rarely isolated work. Of course, it's work between me and God, but how beautiful is it that when I am in disruption and all the emotions, right? And spiraling, that even in that place with one another, we are learning from one another. Your work is my work is your work. It is beautiful. God does not waste an opportunity for this to be done. And as he is calling all of us collectively into being God's people, living in the true reality of the kingdom and the realities of the kingdom, it has been so beautiful this week that the larger work of liberation is a collective communal work.
Well, I have a friend who is a pastor, and when we meet together, it was funny, we were meeting this week, and he told me, he's like, I just love that every time I meet with you, at some point in time, we're praying together. I don't have any other friends like that unless they're in this world of wanting to listen to God all the time. Like right here and right now, Tim, if you felt at all discomfort or not at ease or at peace, it's like we could pray. And that's like, that to me is so refreshing and powerful. And I've never had it exist in my life until I created a community or joined a community with Jamie Winship, and then also created my own where we come together and feel comfortable that whenever there's a place of fear within me, I could just confess that. It's not that I have to delve into all my trauma or what those experiences actually were. I just need to tell you, hey, listen, I'm afraid of my relationship right now.
Yes.
I'm afraid that it's not going to work out. I'm afraid that somehow she's not going to be aligned with me and with God. I don't know what your concern is with your relationship, but it's just like, there's a fear.
Yeah.
And it says something about who we are.
Yeah.
It's like the fear is trying to signal to us about a lie that we believe about ourselves.
Right. Right.
And so like you're talking with your friend Brandon and I'm talking with my friend Derek, and we're just having places where we can be freely in sharing those kinds of things.
That's right. That's right. If I would have been superficial at Brandon, I'd be like, man, I just don't know. What do you think I should do? But now I say, I am afraid that she's not going to give me enough time to really understand me and see me. I'm afraid of what this might say about me. So I go into those fears, and he lit up. He was like, oh my gosh, because he started seeing how God might be working, not only how God has worked in his own life, but how God might be working in my life, but my partner's life, but her life. So it's not us versus them. It's not relationship strategy. That's all waste of time. It is what might God be saying in you. And I'm hearing this as you share about your truths.
Yeah.
So remember this whole thing when we used to say, I'll pray for you. You know, I remember that in my early 20s. And Brandon is so good at this. He's like, we need to pray. And he just starts praying.
Right.
I have another mentor who's just like, okay, Lord, we just come right now. There is fear, and we confess these fears. We tell, and we're praying right now.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's just like you said, a lot of times we say, well, I'll pray for you. And I just want to shift that whole thing to praying with people. It's like, okay, you have a question.
Right.
Let's take the question. That's what happened with my friend Derek. He was wondering, it's like, we need to think about, how do we teach people this most simplest process for listening prayer? What do we need to do to teach that so that someone could facilitate and lead a group in that? That's a great question. We should talk to God about that. And then
Anyway,
we
let's
started
listen.
praying.
Let's ask and listen.
We prayed and we listened and we just fed off of each other and hearing and sensing what came up. Now I'm going to be creating a training video probably later today about all the different elements that we thought were the ingredients that helped make that the best scenario.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone listening that if you don't have anyone in this world, then join a community that practices this stuff. It's so refreshing, so helpful to just know you can go and pray with someone.
That's right. Well, and take the small risk in some cases, for some of us, the huge risk. I'm just going to be honest right now. I am terrified. And that modeling instantly creates safety within a conversation. I've done this in our work of longer tables. We have found the way to create connection relatively quickly between two absolutely different strangers.
Right.
And it always comes back to that risk of being vulnerable, being real, and just telling the truth about something.
Yeah.
I can't, the power of this is absolutely beautiful because it doesn't happen in our day-to-day life.
Two things. I do want to touch on the longer tables, like just your journey with that. But I also can't let go of the fact that you introduced that there's this megastar actor that had this miracle thing. And I'm just like, well, what's the story? Like, what happened? I don't know if you can share, but it would be awesome to hear what was the miracle.
So my buddy is praying about career things. He's in the film industry. And God is showing him how to face adversity on a personal basis between just in their day-to-day life with marriage, kids, running a house. God has been telling him for years, there's something, I have more responsibility for you. But he hasn't known what it is. God will say, just follow me. I'll show you bit by bit. So I think this is all leading toward a bigger role in helping this filmmaker connect with God and create out of wholeness and truthfulness, as Jamie and Donna talk about, intuition, the intuitive, and that secure place that the best creativity can come out of. This megastar in the wildfires had just lost his entire house in the fire.
Yeah.
And, we tend to look at celebrities either one of two ways. They're absolutely incredible, untouchable, amazing, talented people, or we do the opposite. As soon as they fail, they're worthless, broken. We're shocked by both of these things. It turns out these people are just human. This megastar, we have seen publicly his brokenness and his confession, if you will, and vulnerability. And Brandon's wife ran into this megastar, and it was about the most human encounter you could ever have of a megastar shopping for groceries.
Yeah.
In a grocery store after losing his house in a wildfire. And in that place of vulnerability. So I think it's like how funny God is sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? The adventure that my buddy Brandon has found himself in, but it's years of faithfulness and listening.
Yeah.
So I wish I could say more about that, but it's really a beautiful thing that God cares just as much about the megastar's life and mission and influence as Brandon, who nobody knows except for his friends and family.
Right.
And like we were talking about, the work that Brandon is doing is going to benefit the work of this megastar.
That's the connection between Brandon and the megastar. Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
We don't know where God is going with this.
Yeah.
The scale, we talk a lot about scale. We compare ourselves in our culture constantly. And scale goes out the window with Jesus. Less is more, more is less. The upside down kingdom. To see these two lives intersect in a way that is liberating both of them into a greater mission and a greater revelation of the kingdom is absolutely beautiful to be on the sidelines and be like, oh my gosh, this is crazy what's happening.
Yeah. Well, it just kind of reminds me of how I remember learning, like one of the most sold self-help books is this story called The Alchemist. And the origins of that book, I'm pretty sure it wasn't really a success when it first came out. And then some star or something, some one person like said, I was reading this book and it really helped me. And then it just took off to the races from there.
Yeah.
I think in that upside down world of scale and whatnot, it just takes one person, one connection, one idea, and all of a sudden everything's changing. And
That's right. Pray for this superstar. If you're listening to this, pray for this superstar. God knows who it is. This person has made heavily influential work that has influenced our culture specifically for Christ.
yeah.
So there is a prayer for this person to be increasingly liberated with the courage to just be him in all of his brokenness, because that is going to come out in the art he's working on. That is gonna do that work of giving permission for everyone that experiences that art to be liberated as well. Because we read that through art, right? I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but you can feel the honesty in that work that has compelled decades of readers. It affected me deeply, even though it's not a Christian work. It's,
right. True. So maybe you can share more about Longer Tables. Because you recently had an event where you had a mile-long dinner table. Was it for dinner? Okay. But still, it's amazing. It's so cool. Tell us more about that, because it's awesome.
Yeah, Tyson, it's been in about 11-year journey that if you would have told me 11 years ago, or really 25 years ago, that I would be setting tables for a living, I would be like, what are you smoking? And what does that even mean? But when God invites you into that place, as Buechner says, you know, the where your passions and wiring meets the world's greatest needs, that you light up. And usually it's like this surprise, and it's this revelation that was like just right in front of us for years, but we didn't quite hit it. But then when it hits, it is this awe revelation. So I wanted to be a filmmaker. I thought I went to USC Film School. I thought I was going to be God's gift to Hollywood and be right up there with Spielberg. There was this ego, was this identity piece of, for me, making movies couldn't be more powerful and influential. And I quickly discovered that I was not God's gift to Hollywood. I was one in a million, but that doesn't mean that God didn't make me a storyteller. Just the form of how I would tell stories and use film to do that would come out later. And then I came alive in running small groups for my church in LA. And I came alive, and that was a surprise in that I never thought I would be a vocational pastor. Within 9 months to a year, I was doing mission and outreach at a church, leading up mission and outreach. The one thing that I told God I would never do, he's like, let's do that thing. So
did you really? Did you think I would never be in the ministry like that?
I remember saying, I'm called to build up the church body, the believers, which does work out in some ways. But here I was following a girl on a mission trip to Brazil. I was so out of my comfort zone and terrified. Cruising down the Amazon River on that first trip, God opened my eyes and said, I have created you for something so much larger than what you've imagined for your life. And those things that get you excited and you're passionate about and make you come alive, hold on to those things, because that's me. When you hear a symphonic score in a movie, when you frame a shot with the camera in a certain way, when you have a meaningful conversation with someone, he's like, that's me, but just be right here. Keep your hands open with how that actually forms in a job or vocation or time, you know. So did that for vocational ministry for 13 years and got burned out on that. And then I moved back. I was living in LA. I moved back to Denver, and I met this woman, Carrie, and she said, do you want to have dinner with people you would never have dinner with? And I said, heck yeah. I'm a high extrovert and I love meeting people, of course. And she's like, bring a bottle of wine and a side dish and show up. And I showed up expecting, 8-10 people or something. It was an 80-foot table, and 80 people from all walks of life showed up with potluck dishes And she welcomed us and she said, there's 2 rules tonight. Number 1, there's no talk about work. There's no job titles. And number 2, we just want to experience the real you. And I'm like, what in the world is this? This is wild. And everyone's panicking a little bit. You can see it on their faces because we're not talking about work, which is our go-to in America, in our society. And Tyson, we sat down and there were questions at the table that elicited much more of a deeper storytelling from each person. And because we weren't talking about work, we started sharing about memorable meals from our childhood, hopes that we had as kids. Tell me about your childhood friend. It instantly humanized every person at that table. So instead of seeing an African-American older lady across from me, I saw this real human being that I found much in common with, who couldn't be any different than me. But within 10 minutes, we found something that we had in common. And this connection just lit up. And when we're honest with each other and we start telling the truth and sharing our stories, we realize we are so much more alike than the differences that really divide us. And so I walked away. I met a couple that night who became like family to me, an older couple, Pat and Sarah. And I walked away from that night and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I got to be a part of this. Like it hit my heart.
Yeah.
Just like, and we've had those moments where we just come alive and we don't even know what we're feeling. So we started setting these tables and now it's been 11 years of bringing people from all walks of life together at a simple but beautiful long table. And maybe 4 or 5 years into it, Jesus started showing me this is how I engage the world. The table is me. I am the table. You are the table. Let's just do a quick analysis of scripture and where Jesus spends his time. And we see Jesus spends almost more time than anywhere at the table. He spends time with God alone, listening, right? Connecting with the Father. Number 2, we see him at the table. And of course, the central metaphor, symbol, ritual of all of faith, both Old Testament and New Testament, is the wedding feast. In the Old Testament, it was the sacrificial lamb who Jesus becomes. It's the meal. It's the Eucharist that is the center of our faith. Jesus is the table. And he is inviting people to the table. So that is, here we are 11 years and we're consulting with companies and taking the table into companies and saying, hey, this is, whether or not we talk about Jesus, oftentimes we don't say, hey, this is Jesus' table. Jesus doesn't need me to say that. It's because something beautiful happens at every table we set, whether it's inside a company or bringing 3,400 people together at the table. So that is the work that we've been invited into. And I'll say this and then I'll pause. When we tell people there's no talk about work, no job titles, you are not your work. But that's how we define ourselves. And it's how we make judgments about people to know where we are in the social stratosphere, right? So we take that off the table. If we're not our work, who are we? And then there's this invitation. We just want to experience the real you. This is not a table of performance. This is not a table of impressing anyone. This is a table of you just being the human that you are and to engage with other human beings. And then I realized, oh my gosh, these 2 simple rules is what Jesus does. We say in church land, come as you are. I don't know if we always mean it, but we do that at the table. And Tyson, within almost an instant, there is enough safety, social emotional safety, that people go there. And they feel loved and they're sharing. I watch it. I watch it at every table. I see tears come up in eyes. I see laughter. I see this connection because we're having a real experience with the real human being, not a facade, not the false self, not the, I'm Tim Jones, I'm executive director of, no, I'm Tim. So that is this wild adventure that Jesus has invited us into that has kind of changed, where I thought I'm going to be a filmmaker Jesus says, no, you're going to be telling stories. You're going to be setting a table that is the ancient story of creation, of me, and you're laying out the tablecloth so other humans can tell their stories and be connected through stories. And then we're going to shoot video of it and photos because those are powerful too. So here it all comes together in my mid 40s.
Right.
All these storylines, if you will, and these strings that coalesce into Jesus saying, Tim, you are a table setter. And I'm like, yes, that is who you wired me to be.
That's awesome. In your journey, one of the moments you mentioned was that you were doing the mission ministry type stuff and then you got burnt out.
Yep.
And I'm curious as to what was it like? How did you transition and what was the Lord kind of speaking to you? Or was it just a matter of, I don't know why, but this is no longer inspiring me. This is no longer connecting me. And so I need to make a shift.
Oh, Tyson. How long do we have?
Just share with me what comes to mind.
As many of us know, burnout in vocational ministry is very common.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of reasons we could go into of why this happens. And for me, we talk about empire versus kingdom is one way people talk about this. And so much of our American society, our American life, the water that we grew up in is transactional. Everything is transactional. All of our relationships, how can I progress in my journey? Me, myself, I. Right? And what I started discovering is the church system that we had built, because you have staff members and you have a building with electric bills and you got to water the lawn, and we have to have offerings or programs to attract people in and to provide services. This is not a critique of anyone's heart, but what I discovered is what I saw Jesus doing. It was constantly going out. And I was given this picture of temple to table. And temple theology, right? That there is this one place where we encounter God and need a mediator to help us connect to God. And none of us in vocational ministry, church workers, church staff would ever say we're mediators to Christ. We're more facilitators, but that's what I started feeling. And, as Elvis has left the building, Jesus has left the building. And the real work, Tyson, in 2007, our church burned down in a wildfire in Malibu, California.
Oh my goodness.
And that's part of the story. Our ministry flourished when we got rid of that building for 2 years. We had a father-daughter dance in a bar in downtown Malibu where dudes came up to us and said, you wouldn't believe what I've done in this bar. And now here I am with my daughter having a father-daughter dance. We met in the Jewish temple, the synagogue, because that was the building that was available for us. And then we had services in the elementary school. Like, talk about incarnation. Like, if Jesus incarnates into our world, into our reality, we did it. We got rid of that church building and it was beautiful. And that gave me a taste of like, oh, this is where Jesus is moving. He is moving out. He goes to Zacchaeus' house, right? And says, I'm having dinner with you. He doesn't say, hey, Zacchaeus, come down to the temple at 7:00. No. There are so many churches doing so many good things. But the anchor of a church and a staff, I think we have to be liberated from this. I've talked more about Jesus as setting longer tables as not a vocational pastor. I have talked more about Jesus than I ever did as a pastor. And when we set tables and we simply say, there is no Jesus, talk about it.
Right.
People ask me all the time, including media, why are you doing this? I say, because I believe that Jesus Christ is Lord. This is how Jesus engages the world and has a mission to redeem the world through invitation into vulnerability, invitations to humans to be set free from fear. Then I hear their faith story and I hear their delusion. I've actually been thinking about, could I listen to God? And I have this compulsion. I want to know about God. It has been a liberation of being truly incarnational in the world as an agent of reconciliation, an agent of redemption. And My heart lights up to think all those people sitting in the pews, if they are liberated and released to be agents of reconciliation around at the boardroom, at the drive-through, wherever they work, as a teacher in a school, that is the call. So much of our lives are siloed. We have our church self, our professional self, our family self, our play, we're going to go rock climb self. And Jesus says, no, bring it all together. And this integration into the whole self that you are. And when we show up in that wholeness in the world, it is irresistible because it's love. We're free. Doesn't mean our lives are easy, but it means that we no longer play to the rules of a transactional culture. We have transcended that, and people are so hungry for that, they want to know about it. And that's when we tell them. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. I think about your church burning down and you having to meet in a Jewish temple. I don't know if other people were apprehensive about that, but as part of your story, I see the connection between you were exposed to different moments of blurring the lines and just removing the temple and making this a normal, we're just trying to find a place to meet. We just need a place to gather and be real and help each other and help each other.
And actually the goal is the same, is connection to God.
Yeah.
It really gets to this false divide between the sacred and the spiritual, which is temple theology, is really there are certain places in our world that are sacred, and there are, sacred and profane. This false divide. The street corner or my neighborhood or downtown Denver is not sacred. It lacks, essentially, if we just be honest, God's presence. Well, that is wrong all day long.
Right.
That is an old framework that the temple's the only place that we can meet with God and connect with God. And we know that Jesus radically changes that, radically tips that upside down, and the kingdom is everywhere. So this is the kingdom. It does all sorts of things when we start reframing. Could I encounter God in a bar downtown Malibu? You know how many people meet God in a bar and have real conversations at a bar? It's beautiful. There is more church that happens sometimes in a bar than ever does in the church. And then you start bringing down these barriers, and to not do this us versus them of like, well, Jews are not Christians. Why in the world do we care about that? They are seeking God just as we are seeking God. And if the kingdom exists just as much in a Jewish temple or synagogue as it does in our church, as it does down at the bar, as it does in my neighborhood on my street, that is going to radically change how we engage with the world and connect with human beings in their wholeness and their fullness. They're somewhere in their spiritual journey, just like I'm on my spiritual journey. Those church walls, they hurt my heart because they feel like barriers.
Yeah, sometimes they are. So in your journey, going back to you feeling burnout, what was that transition like? When did you know that it was time to change gears?
Well, I had a wine company, which was a wonderful adventure that kind of fell in my lap from a good friend of mine, actually my ex-girlfriend's brother-in-law. So I was, hey, I got a wine product idea, and we pitched it to Costco and it sold. This is how funny life is. In some ways, I'm still in Jesus's business. I'm just selling wine, the blood of Christ at Costco. That would make a good memoir title. Anyway, we lost our hides on that, Tyson. We thought we hit it, and the business failed after 2 years in debt. I would do it all over again. It was a really fun adventure and learned a lot. This is how life goes. And then the table thing fell in my lap. To our friends, Jamie and Identity Exchange, what do I need to know about this? And as we walk through life, one of the most faithful things we can do, especially when we're in a season of brokenness or we've lost our job or a relationship, is just keep swimming. Quote one of our favorite movies, just keep swimming. Just take that next step. Sometimes that next step, getting out of bed, is the largest leap of faith we can make. I'm in darkness, but I'm going to keep walking. So God just kept bringing these things that lit up and was part of, as God's word said, I know the plans I have for you, but you got to keep walking. God took me out of what I thought was my journey
Right.
and filled me up through some of my other passions like branding and marketing and storytelling and dealing with winemakers and making a product. Then that fails. And sure enough, here comes this table thing
Yeah.
that just starts kind of comes in as a whisper and for years. And we're just doing it on the side. And then I started a film and TV studio before COVID. So that was my job for 4 years, to the point that getting closer and closer and closer. And now is the time.
Mm-hmm.
After COVID, God said, after no tables for 2 years, we come back from COVID, we set a table with 80 people. I'll never forget it. I stand back, I'm watching. God says, it's time to double down, which meant it's time to form a nonprofit. It's time to do this. Now is the time.
Wow.
So the burnout is a gift. That was a gift
Hmm.
and an opportunity to say, okay, God, what now?
So you talked about the church, and because there's bills to pay, building to provide for, that sometimes that almost creates this transactional
Mm,
mindset
yeah.
towards building something.
Mhm,
And my guess is that your experience with, you know, the tables,
mhm,
that's been maybe a different way of receiving abundance, because there's still bills to pay. There's still, like, as you grow, there's still
mhm.
things to consider. So I'm just curious as to your view of God's provision or making money in the world
Mm,
gets
mm.
changed in that.
It's a good question. My brain is going to all of the ways that God provides for people in scripture.
Hmm.
And it's not like, okay, here's $1 million. You walked into my true identity for you. You now are firm square right in the heart of what I've created you to do. And here's $1 billion to do it. It's
Hey,
actually the opposite. It's a continued walk of faithfulness to really see God provide in all sorts of ways. So it's, we have the whole tent making thing of like, you got to have your tent making. And I did that for a while, and I'm constantly tempted to go get a job that would be out of fear. And for me, it would be out of disobedience because I have now seen God continue to provide to meet my basic needs, financial needs,
yeah.
do one thing. And that's the one thing that God is calling me to do. And I think most of us can resonate with this, especially like entrepreneurs or people serving God that you have to depend on raising money.
Right.
And I think the temptation and scarcity will always tell us, like, well, either, well, I'll own this, either I'm not making enough money and I need to be making more money,
Right.
or the money's going to run out. This is going to quit revenue generating.
Yeah.
Or just looking to other people, that comparison thing of
Yeah.
like, oh, well, I've been doing this for 15 years and I should be making this salary. And look at all of that distracts and detracts from what I believe God is calling me to do.
Yeah.
And to be laser focused and fully, wholeheartedly committed to this thing that God is calling me to do in
Mhm.
setting tables.
Yeah.
And it would be an act of disobedience to say, yeah, but I'm just going to do this thing part time over here for 10 hours a week just to help bring in more money. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think
Yeah.
if God is calling us, if there is a way to be wholehearted and centered, doesn't mean we can't do other things, but fully trusting that if God calls me to be a table setter, he's going to provide a way to do that. He's
Right.
going to provide the people. He's going to provide the resources. So it gets down to identity. If we are operating in our true identity, in an
Mhm.
abundant perspective
Yeah.
framework of there is enough for all of it, there's enough money, enough time, I'm enough, the people that God brings around me is enough, then I don't have to waste energy looking around me wondering how to make more money.
Right. I can just focus on living out what I've been called to do and let The scripture of all these things shall be added unto you
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah. New car will be added when you need it.
Right.
I think this is really important, Tyson, and I haven't quite thought about this, but this world is full of distractions.
Yes.
And when we're distracted, we're not going to be present.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be as present to God. We're not going to be as present to ourselves and what's going on in here. We're certainly not going to be as present to people. So we see Jesus. This is what the table does, by the way. Table forces us to slow down and get rid of distractions and be right here and to be looking eye to eye. I think generally speaking, in an abundant heart and posture, there's an invitation to slow way down for all of us.
Yeah.
To hear from Jesus on a daily basis. What do you want me to do today? What is in front of me today? Tomorrow hasn't come. Yesterday's gone. The only moment I have is today. And I am going to fully, wholeheartedly lean in. This word keeps coming up today, Tyson. So maybe that's a ping for us. Wholehearted. What does it mean to be wholehearted?
Yeah. Well, I guess even as I reflect on that question or just that word, I think the work I am seeking to do and that we're doing in our own unique ways is repairing the brokenness, is repairing the brokenhearted. And there's just so many ways in which we live in a sense of unwholeness. One of the most common challenges people have, I think, is the belief that we're not enough.
Yeah.
And that it's evidenced in the not enough time, not enough money, not enough resource. And so we just take that external situation and then we internalize it and we say, okay, well, if only I had this, if only my life were different in this way, then not only would my world be enough, but then I would be enough. Life will be better when.
That's right.
Fill in the blank.
Which is a scarcity that is rooted in scarcity.
Right. Yeah. And so, like you're saying, when we can live, when we can operate unattached to all that, be present here now, trusting that the Lord is going to provide, trusting that the Lord's going to be there, that He is here, then life becomes a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fun.
That, and I think about what is kingdom capital, right? How will we know, Jesus, that you are the one? The slaves will be set free. The captives will be set free. The hungry will be fed. The isolated and lonely will find community. That's how you know that the kingdom has come. And so in my journey, Tyson, I've done it on my own. And it worked out. It was fine. Got the paycheck, lived a very controlled life, or under the illusion of control. But the invitation that Jesus, I came so that you may have light and life to the full. He doesn't say, I came so that you may have a life that works out according to what you hoped for. I didn't come so that you could have a trouble-free life, but I am a living story. When I get tempted about the money that my friends are making, which is a lot more than I'm making, Jesus just takes my chin and says, look back at what we've been doing and the riches and the experiences that I have been invited into and got to be a little part of. From setting a table in New York City with senators and CEOs and being able to guide a conversation out of fear and into their wholeness, to meals on the Amazon and in the Burmese jungle in the Civil War, where I experienced hospitality that I've never experienced, to connection with Haitian friends, to setting a mile-long table and getting up to play a little role in projecting a vision of a city that comes together at a mile-long table. Those are the riches that Jesus, and they're tangible too. These aren't just like spiritual riches. No, like these are tangible. When we get a taste of the kingdom coming in and through us, there is no going back because it's too good. It's too beautiful. It's too real. And that invitation is for us, each of us, every day. Of like, I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah.
Quit looking to the left, quit looking to the right. I'm right here. This is who you are. This is who I am. Let's go.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know if you could share, because I know that many people that I've connected with, they're in the valley, like they're in the
Yeah.
hardship.
Yeah.
Any kind of thought of God will provide or whatnot. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel true because the evidence is so strong, proving it's not true.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would say to people in that situation when it doesn't seem like the Lord's present.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been through enough of these seasons in my own life that I would never offer anything in terms of a short-term fix or even a short-term comfort. But I've come to believe, by the way, I have my master's of divinity. I did 6 years of theological studies. If anyone, I would be in that crowd to have a theological answer to suffering and adversity. And I have faith, and I believe that suffering will be one of God's greatest gifts to us. When the story is wrapped up and we're at that table on the other side, I think we're going to see that these moments were his greatest grace in our lives. I was a pastor. I buried people. I had families that lost kids to cancer. And I would never sit there and tell them this. But in this context of us discussing this, looking at my own life, in 2013, I woke up in the middle of the night with a panic attack. It happened 2 nights later, getting emotional. I wrote a goodbye letter because I thought it was the end of my life. And I didn't know how I was going to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I got out of that. And my brother just went through a similar season and he's getting out of it. I don't know the timing. I would never guarantee the timing behind this. But all I know is the grace of Christ. Jesus walked with me through other people, through therapists, through an anxiety expert who doesn't know Jesus, from Adam. But God used these people to bring me up out of that valley. And now I get to hold space with people who deal with anxiety because I've been there and I know it. And I've walked through that. And that has deepened my heart and my soul for other people in a way that nothing else can create a space in us where we can share that with others and walk with others. You have to walk through that. And we see that in scripture. Almost anybody that God uses goes through this wilderness season. Jesus himself had to go through that. 40 days, right? Israel goes through it. Paul, 3 days of blindness, right? It's like 3 days, 40 years, 3 years, whatever the Bible does. But we all go through that. And all I would say is when you can't see, when the money isn't coming, when the physical healing isn't coming, just know that you're in good company. You're in the company of saints. You're in the company of Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. There are no easy answers. There are mysteries of how the Father designed this thing. But we are in a story, and the story is not over.
Yeah.
I think the lie often, when we're in the pit, when we're in the hole, when we're in the darkness, and it's been years, is that there is no story. There is no next chapter. Like, there is no page turn. And I can guarantee there is a page turn. I don't know what that's going to bring. There is a page turn and there's an eternal page turn. That is what we have faith and belief.
Yeah. Well, when you first were just starting to answer the question, my mind just went to, it's not about having an answer. It's about, like, I just saw more so coming from you. If you were to meet with anyone that's going through that, it'd be about you just being there and being with them, not saying a word. And I think a lot of times that's all that's really needed for people. Come to a place, whether it's longer tables or the community, where you can just sit with someone.
Yeah.
You can be with you in that.
That's right. The insidiousness of suffering is exasperated by isolation. because you nailed it. I mean, as a pastor, I didn't come into this family who lost their college kid to cancer and give them all the theological reasons this was happening. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I thank you for tying it to the table, because I think, well, Jesus, before he's arrested and brutally murdered, what did they do? They're all terrified. They eat together.
Yeah.
And we commemorate that meal for centuries now. We commemorate and reenact that meal.
Hmm.
So whether that's a table downtown Denver with 3,400 people, that is a message of that mile-long table was, you are not alone.
Yeah.
We are with one another. We're looking at each other. We're with you. Yes, that is what Jesus does for us.
Yeah. Well, before we close here, I just maybe want to offer space in which, if there's anything that you feel the need to share beyond what we've already talked about, anything that the Lord would have you.
I've got a few minutes. I'll share this. I grew up Presbyterian. We have the priesthood of believers theology. I would say it's pretty biblical that we are all invited in to be agents of love and representatives of the kingdom. You don't need a seminary degree to do this. You can reveal the kingdom of God. It's already there by simply inviting someone to a meal. It is profoundly sacred. I've been thinking about this for 11 years, and much wiser sages than I have written very thoughtfully around this. But it's very simple to reveal the kingdom of God. One of the best, most beautiful ways is to simply invite someone to a meal. We have to do it like 2 or 3 times a day. And every time there is an opportunity to just simply sit down, whether it's a coworker, whether it's our family, whether it's a friend, or whether we're doing it in a more official capacity as a manager or a boss. Let's go to lunch.
Yeah. And I would love to add the rules of not talk about work.
That's right. That's
be
right.
real. And maybe, are there 2 or 3 questions that you find to be really helpful to bring out people's stories?
Yes. Tell me about a memorable meal from your childhood.
Okay.
Really simple.
Yeah.
It's approachable. Most people can respond to that. And it's absolutely beautiful to see people light up in going back to before the fear came, and as we became teenagers, and the judgments about the world and ourselves. Oftentimes we will have a story of belonging and acceptance and love and innocence. For some people, that question can be traumatic if they did not have a safe place.
Right.
But what we have found is that is a beautiful starting point to open up. And usually people will, if they did have that negative experience, they'll share that. Oh my gosh, then we're off to the races.
Right.
Because people are being honest and telling
Yep.
the truth.
Yep.
And now within 30 minutes, we have had a unbelievable conversation that not only connects us and makes us all human, but starts releasing people into the truth that we are all about living the same experience of brokenness, of trauma, of pain, of joy, of comfort, of love. And when that conversation plays out, people don't want to leave. You'll have to be like, I got to get back to work, or I got to get back to whatever, because people don't want to leave, because there is this glorious presence that we lavish upon people that people are not getting anywhere in our world right now.
Right. Yeah, I'd agree. Hey there, thanks for sticking around to listen to this whole conversation. And if you made it to the end here, I just want to ask you a favor. And that favor is just to subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, leave a review, wherever you're listening to this. I spend time and effort to creating this, and this is a free thing that you can do that I would just appreciate your help on. And share this with other people if you know it will help them, because we all need to listen to God a little bit more, a lot of bit more, just because of how much God just wants to build a relationship with us, how much he wants to build a relationship with you. So if this spoke to you, supported you in any way, just please share, review, subscribe, all the good things. All right. We'll talk to you later. And if you want to have further help, I'll put a link in the description about Longer Tables organization. And maybe there's opportunities for you to invite people into your home, as well as the online community that I have called the Receive Academy. And this is a place that you can go to have like-minded people that you can interact with and connect with, which is exactly what Tim and I were doing in that moment, just having a conversation and supporting one another, praying together, those kind of things. All right. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.